Hello there, ladies, gentlemen, and unicorns. Thank you everyone for partaking in the pop quiz. Frank, congratulations on winning it yet again. And Kersey on second place, but with 100 answers correct. And on third place, congratulations, Nomo Nero. I will go with Nomo again. Hello everyone, congratulations, and thank you everyone for dropping by. Just checking whether we have audio levels. Yes, we have. The unicorns are here and are ready to occlude the chat. Well, they don't occlude it, they just make it a little bit busy behind the chat. Hello everyone, how are you all doing? How was your weekend so far? I'm doing quite well. I still got here some of my Earl Grey. Well, it's the strawberry scented Earl Grey. It's an abomination, probably am not allowed in the upper circles of the English class system, despite it. I mean, I like my Earl Grey with very, very fake and chemical smelling strawberries, and I like my pizza with pineapple on it. So good for me, bad for everyone who is offended by it. Hello everyone. Okay, no more is fine, and yes, glad you like the mug. It's a present from my mother-in-law, in fact. So it's not all Pixel Prophecy designed shirts and mugs here. Almost, well, this shirt here was a tribute shirt to one of my most favorite / hated companies, game developers of the 80s and 90s, Ocean Software, because usually they had the greatest licenses like RoboCop and Jurassic Park, but the games themselves were but yeah, it's I thought still I pay a little bit of a tribute to them. Should be Yorkshire Gold. Why Earl Grey should be Yorkshire Gold? Yeah, pineapple pizza. Unfollow. See, this is what I meant with it, because usually there's always at least one person offended, and no more. Now I know that you're from Italy. It's heretical, indeed. The hot traditional or not traditional argument. My problem is today that for some reason this very eye here. Probably I slept too much on it, where I was just lying face down, and I applied a little bit of too much pressure to it, because today I feel like I'm especially nearsighted on this very eye. So it's not bad that much, but of course it didn't get better over the day, or yeah. So first thing tomorrow is make an appointment with my eye doctor and have her take a peek at me, so to speak. So yeah, hopefully it's nothing serious, but it's just something where I thought, yeah, maybe I should change my screen resolution just to make sure that I see. Frank says, yet you probably tolerate tomato sauce on pizza. That's not traditional either. That is true. And Venereal Disease tried pesto pizza once. It was pretty good. Oh, okay. Now I have to try something else. What we also have here around Austria, and probably also in parts of Germany, is something that is called the kebab pizza. And it's pretty much what you would expect. It's a doner kebab, but the insides of it just strewn about pizza. And of course, for those who know that doner kebab is pretty tasty and pizza is pretty tasty, and when you combine them, it's probably not something too healthy, but of course very tasty. Maybe I should have something like this at some point. I need to reward myself, probably for something this week. Nomo says, I think it's the pineapple pizza that infected your eye instead. Hopefully, I mean, I wish it were, because then it would mean that I've had pineapple pizza today, which sadly I did not, but I get it. You're not a fan of it. DC says we have that in Finland too. It's very good. I think it's hard to mess up pizza. It's the perfect food. Someone said, yeah, even if you have a very bad pizza, it's still an okay dish. And of course, the sky's the limit. I mean, when you know a good place where you can get good pizza, you don't even know how good a pizza can be. But of course, even if it's bad, it's probably just sufficient. Maybe you need to try cinnamon roll pizza, says Cursey-Boo. I'm always up for these weird kinds of experiments. What we also have here on the fairgrounds, or not just on the grounds, it's when there's an annual fair, and also the Ruperti-Kiertag is also a traditional fair here in Salzburg and Bavaria, and essentially it's It's very traditional, but they do sell pretzels. And of course, you get the very traditional Bavarian buttered pretzel. But of course, a couple of years now, they started experimenting with it. And you can get deep fried pretzels, I think, pretzels that are made of donut dough and even filled pretzels. And there is something that is called the Mozart pretzel, which is filled with what was it? Almonds and chocolate or something. It's quite an abomination, but I've heard it's very good. The only reason that I didn't treat myself to it is usually, when you're on the fair, the prices are just out there. So this is why I didn't try it yet. Also probably because having one of these pretzels probably counts as two whole meals. So I need to make sure that it's sandwiched between something healthy, like sandwiches. Anyway, maybe you need to try cinnamon roll pizza, right? Disease says Domino's back home used to have Nutella pizza. Oh God, also very good. I think I'm just very easy to please. Cinnamon roll pizza sounds amazing, right? And Frank says, is there anything you can't get in a Mozart variety over there? Probably not. Maybe, I think we joked when I was at university, because we also realized this, and we joked that maybe something like Mozart toothpaste is not yet a thing. But I haven't checked. But yeah, for those who don't know, probably one of the most favorite sweets from Salzburg are Mozart balls. And of course, it's always funny when you say it in English, because of course, it could have multiple meanings. But in German, it's Mozart Kugeln. So a Kugel is just a sphere. So there is no double innuendo connotation there. Anyway, so these Mozart Kugeln, they're just just a little candy, more or less invented I think hundreds of years after Mozart's death. And essentially it's just a little ball of chocolate, and inside you have nougat and something like Nutella, just a little bit harder, and marzipan. Is this also what you call it in English? I need to look it up. And again, it's very tasty. It's marzipan, almond paste. Yes, good. So didn't get my English wrong there. So, and again, it's quite tasty. So there have been countless manufacturers over the years, and there is an ongoing dispute between who is allowed to call it the original Mozart Kugel, who is allowed to call it the traditional Mozart Kugel, because there are like 3 or 4 long-running candy makers there who all more or less want to own the monopoly. And but this mix of it's chocolate, it's nougat chocolate, and it's marzipan, and this apparently is Mozart. So when I was also at university, and this dingy little grocery store across the street, they served a Mozart drink. And imagine chocolate, marzipan, and nougat all in a slightly less hard form, but more or less like a molasses. Think of it, a molasses of these ingredients, and this you could get in a little pack. And again, I also think that just drinking 250 milliliters of this counted as a whole meal. And yes, I used it as a pick-me-up, especially when I forgot to go shopping. I would have this Mozart drink. It's long gone now. Who I can only guess why. Nomo says, by any chance, are you currently developing a game, or you have games online already? Good question, and thank you for somewhat reining me back into today's topic. And the short question is, yes, I do have games online. The long question is, it's a little bit complicated, because yes, I do have games in development, and what I'm looking forward to doing today is starting with a professional, the quotes are very important here, a game development framework inside of GameMaker. The reason for this is you would think that GameMaker, wait a second, isn't this already a game development framework? And I would say yes, but with GameMaker there are many things that you might trip over once your game gets a little bit bigger or a little bit more complex. For one thing is, I've alluded to this multiple times now over the years, you don't have any form of scoping. So it's a free-for-all. Every object or every instance can change variables in another instance. There is no guardrails set up, which of course is great when you're just beginning and you want to get things working, and it's terrible when you have things that are complex and at some point you, for debugging reasons, it's hard to understand, okay, what is writing into what other instance and why and when is this happening and so on. So over the years, I also developed some sort of guardrails for myself and thought, now with a new GameMaker that I want to start more or less fresh and, well, not the quotes here aren't meant for the word fresh, but more for fresh and professional there. This is the place where the quotes should go. So with what do I mean by saying professional? And of course, it's what I understand under professional. One thing, for example, is that I want really to look into a bit of more abstraction and management classes and things like, for example, an event system. You get one with Unity, you don't have one with GameMaker. Or the other thing is an input manager where you can say, you know what, I want to on the fly switch from keyboard to gamepad, because in GameMaker no one is stopping you that you examine the keyboard and whenever W is pressed it means go forward. But of course if people want to map it to different letters or something, it's not as easy anymore. Of course there are mapping things surrounding this, so it's not impossible with the built-in functions, for example, but of course then along comes something like the Steam controller input library or something, and I haven't looked into this because this would allow you to remap things via Steam, for example. And the other thing, of course, is with user interfaces, GameMaker is still lagging behind. Even in the latest version, they finally adopted like flexi views, and I think they're more or less like CSS flex boxes. So I don't know how far I can get into it, but I just want to set up a empty project more or less and start adding these kinds of managers. For one thing, for example, is in sound manager, because again, if you say, hey, if you click this, play this sound. But of course, let's assume that whenever an enemy gets killed, they play the oh sound. Now imagine you have like 120 enemies and your character has an amazing smart bomb that kills all enemies at once. And what happens is 120 times the sound gets played at the very same frame and volume explodes. And all these kinds of things I want to somehow, again, more or less make a little bit abstracted away. For example, that I can say, okay, this is a sound effect that belongs to the group of, I don't know, in-game sound effects or UI sound effects. And depending on what you as a user have set for the volume for UI sound effects, then automatically the volume gets changed for this kind of group of sound effects. So essentially, I'm just making things a little bit easier to manage on the long run when you're working on a game longer. Right, so this was the plan for today. Hope Nomo, I answered your question. As for games that are already online, I can point you to, damn it, I mean, I'm also developing on and off a new website for Pixel Prophecy, where hopefully everything should be in one place for everyone to find. But let's go to where some of my games are hosted. Of course, they are accessible here through pixelprophecy.com. This is the game that I'm currently developing, or have been developing for over a year now. Currently, again, it's I have so many projects going on, especially video projects, so this is why the Wizard's Beans, this one here it says coming soon, and it will still take a while. But I mean, it's like 90% finished. I would say even more than 90%. Things that are missing is sound and maybe the pretty picture here and there, and writing the ending, which the endings have been planned, but I still need to write them. And then I would say I'm done. for beta testing, because I'm pretty sure that when some people beta test this game, it's not that I'm 90% finished. It's like, yeah, I might be 90% finished, but then there's still 80% on top of it to finish it. Then the other game here is this is my so far only Steam game, that is Minesweeper. It's from 2015. It's a Minesweeper variant, and this I also made with GameMaker. And I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. It's pretty solid. No one complained that their save games got eaten. And despite having implemented how to save games very late in development, it was on day 1 or day 2 after I launched the game. Because I, as a developer, thought, yeah, it's more like an arcade experience where you see just how far you can get and there is no need to save your current state of the game. And people complained, and I realized that, oh, it's a bigger deal than I expected, and then just came up with a save game solution in one day and programmed it, and it still works. So yeah, sometimes you just get lucky. And of course, then we have games from yours truly that are on itch.io, where the address is fittingly pixelprophecy.itch.io. So there are different or other games. For example, I think here this Meg Gunner is one of my Ludum Dare games. So those games are hosted here, or my screensaver for DOS. And finally, on the Ludum Dare website, ldjam.com is invalid. Is this possible? Did I mistype? No, apparently I did not. The requested URL is invalid. Well, darn it. Oh dear. Didn't know that LDJam is down. Has anyone experienced this before? Anyway, there are links to my other Ludum Dare Jam games. So the games, they're just the links to the games and descriptions. The games themselves are hosted on my server on pixelprophecy.com. So it's just the only links leading to these games where I can get them are on the Ludum Dare page. Well, that's weird. Okay, down for you too, Kersey. So, well, that's sad. Maybe someone should look into this, or let Mike know, or who knows that Mike is already fed up with everything and just disconnected the server and said, yeah, there you go. So the automated unicorn disagrees. So hopefully it's just, I don't know, just a hitch somewhere with Cloudflare or the usual things. So yeah, those are the current state of my games, how and where they are spread all over the internet, not counting, of course, the games that aren't in a state where I feel like they're ready to publish them. And most of them have been made with GameMaker. For example, Pressure Run, Meg Gunner, then I made a tool. This is the GameMaker Studio Object Creation Tool, which is pretty much obsolete now since GameMaker version 2. ByteWiz is another tool. Ludum Distractio, that's an HTML5 game. So this was a collaboration where I just did the art. Tetris is a GameMaker game. Aufgeblähte Drossel is a GameMaker game. And Idle Bounce is made with Free Pascal. So... you can see that there is a lot of games that were developed with GameMaker, because it's the one, Minesweeper also, by the way, the one on Steam. GameMaker is the engine that I more or less started with when I started making games seriously in 2014 already, and so I feel the most comfortable with it despite its many limitations, which doesn't mean that I hate every other engine. I'm very curious about Godot and just haven't felt comfortable enough to jump straight into G-script or GD script or what's it called. I tried also my hand at Unity. I have a couple of prototypes with Unity, but with Unity I always felt slightly overwhelmed by everything, because no matter how much I looked into the systems and all the features that it offered, it felt to me like I barely scratched the surface and barely understand it, that I can work with it. And with GameMaker I also was a little bit out of the loop couple of years, because I wasn't actively developing in GameMaker and missed some of the updates, but there have been some updates in the past, and also over the last couple of weeks I looked into the features that I missed, like the new UI system. which also is kind of neat. Like I said, finally with GameMaker, I mean, I can quickly show you what was possible with GameMaker. So let's make a new object. And as an event, you have here your draw event where you can say draw GUI or GUI. So essentially is when you have an object that has a sprite, it draws itself, and you can insert code in place of the built-in drawing function code that happens before or after all things have been drawn. Same thing here for the GUI begin and end. The draw GUI thing, then again, it means that, oh, cool, it asks me, do I want to use the visual or the code editor? And I will go with, yeah, I'm not that nearsighted. So, and this is where you can plop things in. And so what the GUI layer is now compared to Unity, where you have this entire canvas system and you can have canvases and sub canvases and already definitions for, I don't know, buttons and sliders and checkboxes. And I thought finally, since GameMaker has updated the GUI system, I thought finally it's possible here. And no, it's not quite possible. All you get is flex boxes where you can say I have here text that I want to align in dynamically, more or less again like CSS. And but if I want a button, I still have to program it. I still have to make an object that takes two sprites. When the sprite switches, when it detects that the mouse is in bounds and clicked, and then it calls a function that you define. So essentially a button, but I still don't understand why you have to code it up anew every time. And I looked also at the official tutorials when you have an which usually is the case when you have a user interface is, for example, you open up your inventory and then you click on something and then another thing should open up. Or just imagine a main menu screen, then you click on options and on top another menu appears where you can set, I don't know, your options. The only way that they showed it in their tutorial was probably for simplicity's sake, was that you disable all other UI elements and then enable the flex view for the options menu that you want to show, which I think, well, it works if you have like 3 or 4 menus where you can, with each open menu, you can just manually type in hard code and hide the others. And I thought probably it would be better to have a stack of open windows, so that again you need some sort of manager object. And this got me really thinking that with many things in GameMaker you probably want some sort of manager objects. And again, over the years I increasingly found myself coding up these kinds of manager objects just to make life easy on me. Like I said, it's a free-for-all. You can do all sorts of horrible code sins, and usually when you start out, that's what you do, and then you learn through mistakes and pain. So right, so this is essentially what I want to do today. Just start a simple project and then hopefully find different ways of how I can abstract it and make it a bit more easier to program or easier to wield when it gets bigger. So cheers, by the way. Venereal Disease says, is Mike still running it or what's happened? Yeah, so far the thing with Ludum Dare is that Mike is stepping back from Ludum Dare because he's been running it since the early 2000s. And I mean, over the past years, it was kind of obvious that he more or less ran out of steam. Also had some setbacks with it, and the community wasn't always super satisfied, for example, with the Ludum Dare website, which is now defunct. More or less, Mike, I think, coded it up himself, and it's on GitHub. And what I realized, or what I learned, is that the community was a little bit pissed at Mike because many things with the website aren't super. I mean, it's serviceable and it works, but all the fixes that the community pushed, Mike hasn't accepted it into the repo, at least from what I've heard. So it feels like Mike is complaining that no one is helping him, despite not allowing him to be helped. I don't know the full extent of everything. But more or less, the idea is that Mike will keep running it to Ludonare 64 because that's a nice number, which should be in 2 years, or was it next year? I think it's 5 more events essentially, and then Ludonare is history. But of course, he says make something better, make something different. He's only. The only thing he asks is not to call it Ludum Dare, which I think is fine enough, because to be fair, I didn't like the words Ludum Dare not that much, because I mean it feels a little bit pretentious. It's Latin. The cool thing is there's the word dare in it, so which also, if you pronounce it English, it makes, would you dare to make a game in 48 hours? Something like this. So this is what I liked. But from what I know is essentially it's unwinding now. And Mike said he's giving the community the chance to come up with something new within the next couple of years, which probably won't happen. I feel, but then again, there are so many various game jams out there that, for example, the global game jam or other game jams that I haven't really looked into it, because usually, or for me, I'm usually very dead set on Ludum Dare because it has like 2 events a year, which is manageable for me, and also where it still feels like we have this community around it. So I think that's in essence what's happening. Nomo says, I see there's 2 Blue Sky accounts. You own both? Question, who Blue Sky? 2 Blue Sky accounts for Pixel Prophecy, you mean? And Kirsty says, a Windows manager, who would ever need one of those? Exactly. Yeah, that's, again, with GameMaker, it feels like they're a little bit behind. I mean, GameMaker can, by the way, they can do 3D things. It's just not very comfortable. It's not like you can switch to 3D view like you can do with Godot. So it's more or less programmatic, where you have to do all of these. And you don't have a nice renderer, so to speak. So you need to code your shaders yourself. Again, it's GameMaker. It feels a little bit behind. But again, for 2D things, I'm pretty quick with it. Okay, Frank says, yes, there are more people who have time for a game jam every month, but I'm not one of them either. See, at a certain age, it's the more, someone joked, the more money you get and the less time you have for things. So this is really where youth starts to wear off, that when you're a kid, you have all the time in the world, you have no money to buy the games that you want. When you study, you have a little more money, but also a little less time. And as soon as the big old capitalism machine has you, and you have other or additional things you need to look after, suddenly, you don't have time to devote yourself every month for a weekend that you can spare. Right, okay, so with GameMaker, let's get started. So what I'm running, if anyone is interested in it, is the LTS version, the latest one. I'm not even signed in. How is this possible? Sign in. So let me quickly sign in, but help about. So for anyone who's interested, I'm running the IDE version 2026-0016 and the runtime also of 2026-23. So I'm online, but I'm not registered. So the only bad thing about GameMaker is, because over the years I feel like the team has been pretty committed to it. The only bad thing about it is that GameMaker was, or Yo-Yo Games, the makers of GameMaker, was bought by Opera, the browser maker. And for all that I know, Opera is not a very, let's say, well-meaning company. So far, things have been working good with GameMaker and Yo-Yo Games, so they can still do their thing. The only thing that's a little bit funny is that you can also make apps or add-ons for the Opera browser that run inside the Opera browser, because of course they need to shoehorn this in. But again, it feels like I don't know. I've never heard of anyone actually doing this. So let's see if I mistyped my password, and thankfully I did not this time. Network error, attempting to fetch resource. Probably I need to try this again because it timed out. So apparently I'm signed in. It should let me know you have signed in successfully. Okay, good. DC says, the Headroom song is kind of nostalgic at this point. Oh yes, it's still running in the background. Yeah, I thought I update my playlist and take out all the songs that are not very conductive to programming or being creative, like all the songs that are just moody horror, because I thought, even in the stream, if I'm talking about, I don't know, the lovely Saturday that I had and the music in the background says there's an axe murderer 3 steps behind you, it's probably not too fitting. So GameMaker. So this new version of GameMaker, one thing that you might notice if you're familiar with GameMaker is that the asset browser is more or less empty. It's just one room, which is actually kind of cool, because now I can create my own groups and everything. Let's make rooms and objects, because before that it had a folder for every type. So you can already see here it was like 10 folders or something. And especially if there's things that you never needed, like paths in my case, or tile sets for most of my games, then of course it just cluttered things up. So I create another group that I call objects, and maybe even a group that I call managers, which should be singletons. So as for the first room, usually I set this up for HD, so that's 1920 by 1080. Clear display buffer, and so the very first room should be my initialization room. Essentially, the first room creates all the managers that I need and loads all the assets, and once that is done, only then it changes to the next room. And maybe I even have a room manager that makes sure that we're always on the correct room. So this is where I would start. So again, here with GameMaker, I want to use viewports, which means that I can say, hey, move the camera around. So this is what a viewport is. And here for the viewport, I also need to set it to visible and set the viewport to be the same size as the first room. So this is really something that is the boilerplate of GameMaker, which again is a little bit cumbersome, because if you don't do all these things and then you want your camera to follow your player sprite and it doesn't follow, well, the reason is you haven't enabled viewports and the viewport is not visible, because when the rollout here is closed, you wouldn't see this. So again, it's still a little bit of a UI mess. So I call this RM init. So this is another peculiarity of GameMaker is you can name pretty much anything how you want to name it. In the latest version of GameMaker, they introduced data types, in a sense that, so with rooms, for example, I could call my rooms whatever I wanted. And even in code, I could say, hey, jump to RM init. And internally, this RM init would just resolve to an integer. So if I say, hey, please give me what the object of the current room, all you would get is the integer with the number of the room. And the engine itself would resolve it. And as far as I can tell, in the latest version here of GameMaker, this room is now an object. I think it's even described as a JSON or something, or struct in GameMaker. So again, it feels slightly more professional than everything is just integer lookups into the asset database. So anyway, so we're starting here with room init, and also this little house symbol means this is where we start. And I will create another room, or I just duplicate this room and I call this room, let's go, main. And so just that we know that this room switching actually works, I'm going to change here the background color of the main room from black to, let's say, dark blue. That's a nice soothing color. And the initialization room, also that we know what is going on, I give it here this medium dark gray. So when I launch this, we should see the dark gray room because there's nothing in there. Room init, I have no idea what this is. Room init. room in it. Okay, now I get it. Room in it. Yeah, what I meant to say, that I'm prefixing it here with rm. This is of course just for my sake, because like I said, everything was just integers, and so that I would know, okay, this refers to a room when it's rm, and if it starts with an o, it's an object, and if it starts with, I don't know, spr, then it's a sprite. And this is how usually I program my things in GameMaker, so that I could tell these things apart. So right, so the first thing of course that I make is an init manager, and for this I make an object and I call this or ctrl, this is my controllers, or let's go with mgr for manager and call it init. That's nice, init. Thank you, Automated Unicorn, for agreeing. And so I'm here in my init room, make sure that I'm here on my layer of instances, and then I can just plop this anywhere in. It has this question mark thing because there is no sprite assigned to it, so it's not showing up anything. Kirsty says, it's a room in it? Sips Yorkshire Gold. Thank you for reminding me to hydrate, by the way. So, and now here my init manager. Again, here with GameMaker, I could assign it a sprite, which I don't need for a manager object. And one thing that might be interesting for other managers, but not for the init manager, is to have it be persistent. That means they survive room changes. Usually in GameMaker, everything is in a room, all the assets, and when you change rooms, all the assets get set back to the initial state of this room, which can be helpful when you don't mind respawning enemies, for example, or can be a little bit annoying when you, for example, mind respawning enemies. So, for example, if you have, I don't know, like 3 enemies in a room, and you come back to this room, they are in their initial state. Also, anything that you might have looted in the game as player is still being reset. So again, as soon as you leave a room, for example, you already need some sort of manager object that keeps track of, okay, the chest 1 has been unlocked, chest 2 has been looted, and 2 of the 3 enemies are dead, for example. So to make this kind of persistence, you can also say that certain objects are persistent and survive these kinds of room changes. But again, it's really, yeah, it depends on what kind of game you're making. DC says, all this tea talk is getting me thirsty. That is good. Hydrate, my friend. Hydrate. It's fun and healthy to stay hydrated. So fun. Right, invisible means that when you have events that say like the draw event, when something is not visible, then their draw event won't run. Events are, as probably as you might guess, is they run when certain things happen. For example, the first time an object gets instantiated, or every frame, or when the object gets deleted, or when a certain button is pressed. And so for our manager, initializing manager, I of course add an event. So when this thing gets created, so create here on create, the very first one, then I want to run some code. Let's go with show debug message works, which means it shows up here in our output. So down here it should print this. And why is it not printing? Good question. I don't know. let's oh no, there we go. There it goes. About to start room, and there it writes works. And then it prints the total memory, the free memory, the peak memory, and then entered the main loop. Because again, this was created, this create event runs before any main loop runs. So, good. This works. So what does my initial object usually does? It creates all the other managers that are necessary for the game, and once all they have been instantiated and have references to each other, only then I switch my game to the main room. And the main room could be the main menu or the first logo screen, or when you're developing it, just straight into the game with already some parameters being set. So the cool thing about having this sort of initiator is that when you're developing it, you can say, hey, the next room is not the main menu room, but level 14 or something, and jump straight to this. So let's do this and say here, when we create, and then we say room go to, or go to room go to next, or room go to index. And see here, they're still talking about index and not the room object. So rm main. So this means now, or let's show another debug message. Show debug message, initializer complete. So it should write the string, and we're here in this blue room, and initializer complete. There we go. So it's as simple as that. And this means I think we can get started on our different managers that we want to create. I'm usually using singletons. I've heard global state is bad, singletons are bad. And to this I say, well, it works for my game. I don't want to do an academic foray into the advancement of computer science through, I don't know, compiler logic or anything. I just want to work to make a game that works and does what I think it does. It doesn't have to be super performant. I mean, especially when I'm doing some 2D games with GameMaker, they're not going to be super performant, and they don't need to be. So of course it's good to optimize, but I've also come to the realization, well, it's probably best to optimize the main loop and things that run like 60 times a second, or if you have like a grid that updates every frame and every grid cell per frame, something that balloons to let's say something runs 12,000 times each frame or so. These are the things you want to look into. But of course, if the initialization, for example, takes now 1 second or 1 second and 200 milliseconds, no one's gonna care. And especially not if you want to maintain your code. This is another thing that I've learned the hard way is, of course, you can modularize everything, you can generalize everything, but do you really need to? I mean, I'm the first to admit, no, you don't, and I'm also the first to admit that I still do this. So again, it's more or less I'm just trying myself to convince myself, hey Phil, when you want to make when you want to write, I don't know, a console application, it doesn't, and it needs to print a nice little frame for something with ASCII characters. I spend way too much on making this frame so that you have a center text that's always in the center, and even calculates the shadow color as ASCII characters and so on. Never needed it beyond just drawing a simple frame. So I could have hard coded this, but of course it took me a couple of hours to generalize it. Was it necessary to do it? No. Did I enjoy doing it? You bet. But still, in the end, did a game come out of it? No. So that's your answer. When in doubt, add another abstraction layer, says Frank. Right you are. I think you're a C++ programmer then. And I mean the old school C++ programmer, when in the 90s everyone was, oh my god, it's object oriented. We can inherit like we have like 18,000 levels and hierarchy things of inheritance before we went back on this a little. You can add abstraction layers without C++. That is true. I just thought this would be the C++ mindset. Enjoying doing it is valuable. Exactly. That is the thing. But of course, I would have enjoyed it a little bit more when there at some point a game would have come out of it. But that is the thing. When someone says, yeah, you want to automate this task, but if you do it manually, it takes you 10 minutes. If you automate it, it takes you 2 hours to automate it. Where was the time saved? But then again, this is, I've already said this on stream, Cursey, you know it. In these 2 hours where you automated this road task, of course, the next time, every time you need to run it, it costs you exactly no time at all, and not again 10 minutes or again 5 minutes. And of course, in these 2 hours that you spend with it, probably you had fun doing it. Otherwise, you wouldn't have spent 2 hours on this. And you've learned something. So with the next task you want to automate, you already have a little bit more knowledge in regards to your problem under your belt. I don't know how many string parsers I've written over the years for my various little tools. And at first, I came to loathe regular expressions. Now they are my cozy little friends, and especially when I'm typing out regular expressions, I feel like I've grown much better in understanding how these things work. Again, I wouldn't have learned this when I never did automating things. So yeah. That's the thing. And Mr. Troy is here. Thank you so much for dropping by, Mr. Troy, and subscribing for 40 months. That's a round number to be celebrated. So I'm celebrating with my Earl Grey tea and my crystal tea. And I will drink both at the same time, which is probably a bad idea. But I mean, 40 months. You've earned this little. Oh dear, that's a bad idea. That's very. It worked, and it tastes like very watery tea, so it's exactly what I was going for. I'm a little bit now disappointed that I didn't make a mess out of my desk and myself. Probably you are too. I'm sorry. Maybe next time. Mr. Troy says, I hope everyone here is having fun. That is so nice, and I don't think everyone here is having fun because I'm just talking about implementing things and not doing it. So let's have some fun. Probably I shouldn't call it initializer, just let's go with init complete. And right back at you. That's nice. Yes, I also hope that everyone is having a wonderful time. And if you're just lurking or suddenly have to drop out, all good. Or let me already wish you a wonderful week. Oh, by the way, while we're at it, I just want to quickly interject into what is happening next week, because I don't think that I'll be streaming next weekend because family and everything, and I don't think that I have time for it because my timetable is more or less occupied. So maybe I will do another stream, not on the next weekend, but sometime under the week, as we say, so during a weekday, at a very, very odd time, probably doing some Minecraft things. And by the way, Minecraft, did you just hear Minecraft? And yes, this Thursday I am again guest at the Radio FM4 Spielekammer. It's starting at 5, so which means it's 4 hours earlier than my streams usually start, and it's going to be in German on a different channel. So I don't know how applicable it is to you, but again, it's just so nice to be invited back to the big broadcasting station. DC says travel vlog, and I say yes, but it's probably going to be a very short one. It's going to be a little reel or it's going to end up on Insta or TikTok and YouTube Shorts. So it's not a full video, but it's going to be a reel because I thought they're just much quicker to produce, but not by much. The only thing that saves me there is, I want to keep it under 1 minute. And if I cram everything in under 1 minute, it's still entertaining, it's still a lot of work, and it's somewhat manageable, and I can do this in a couple of hours, if not just a day or two. It doesn't occupy me weeks again. But yes, no full spy novel. I'm very sorry, Frank, probably not. Maybe I don't have any specific ideas for it, but thank you for remembering my last video on it. So maybe I can come up with something to theme it around. Right, so let's do some debugging messages because that's always good. Probably I should look into also abstracting away debugging messages where I can say, hey, this is an error message, this is a warning message or something. I think you can do this with show debugging, string forward, string, okay, error or something, or debugging log, but yeah, probably will have to abstract this away, but not yet because I do not need it yet. So init or starting init and init complete. There we go. The GameMaker language, GML, is very close to JavaScript, it feels. The only thing is, also with JavaScript, semicolons at the end of lines are optional, but of course encouraged. So when you see me type more semicolons on some days than others, the reason for this is being that I was programming PHP the day before, probably. So let's make another singleton manager object. So object mgr, let's call this view. So this is going our view manager, because again with GameMaker everything is views and view ports. So the camera is also a view camera. So again, this is what my view manager is going to be. And I create another manager. Let's call them input manager and a sound manager. So object mgr input and mgr audio, which I think maybe you can also add a manager for UI, but again I'm not sure how much I get to implementing for now. But again, it's something when everything is a manager, and at the end every manager knows, or you know what, maybe an event system. This is really something that I want to look into. So mgr event. So essentially all these objects again will instantiate one instance with or through the init manager. And once every object here, every manager object has been created, then we jump into the main game, so to speak. Frank says if a semicolon is a semicolon, is a full colon probably if you have, I mean, it would be, that's a mathematical question, right? Because if it's two semicolons, I mean, semi means half, right? But is... good question. That's too philosophical for me, but good catch. So one thing that again is super important that I sometimes forget when I'm doing these kinds of object managers. Well, for one, let's close everything and make sure that here my audio manager is persistent, because again that's important. My event manager is persistent. My input manager is persistent, my UI manager is persistent, and also my view manager is persistent. And I also have a game state manager. I forgot that I usually have. So mgr game, which takes care of the rules and the game state and so on and so forth. So yeah, it's a quarter colon, right? Yeah, the other way. It's divide. If you divide it, then it's less of a colon than before. So right, so let's have a look at our, I mean, what I just wanted to say is, or thought is, you know what, maybe it could have an abstract, a virtual manager object, and all other managers are derived from it, which is also something that you can do in GameMaker. It feels like, is GameMaker object oriented? And my question is, it's much in the same way object oriented like Doom. The original Doom is a 3D game. Well, it kind of looks object, or it kind of looks 3D at first glance, but it's not. It doesn't support everything that is actual full 3D. And the same thing is here with having inheritance and that sort of thing. So this all works, and it's a little bit clunky, but again, you don't have any sorts of scoping and that sort of thing, or even memory management. I mean, you can write to buffers, but I'm not sure if you can get a handle on the memory addresses where certain instances of objects are, and all these advanced things. I don't think that's possible with GameMaker, but yeah, just an aside. So this is, I'm not doing inheritance whenever I can cheat my way around it, because as soon as you have more than one level of inheritance, things start to get a little bit cumbersome or hard to maintain, I feel. Because everything needs to inherit first, and then maybe you have some variables shadowing, and I need a sip of my tea just thinking about it. Right. Okay, so we have here our manager objects, and they are all empty, but they should get instantiated. And this is what I want to do here in my initialization manager, that again, the initialization manager is innate to the init room. And then once everything has been initialized, it switches to the main room. Because all other managers are persistent, but the init manager is not persistent, all other managers survive this jump to whatever room there is, and only the init manager will not. So, and for this, to keep track, I'm going to use global variables. Let me make this a little bit bigger so that you can see a little bit better. Global. And for this, I use usually, in at least in my writing, all capitalized variable names. So let's call this MGR or game MGR. That's probably better for game manager. Is instance create. And I need to create an instance either at a certain depth or a layer, which is good when something has a sprite, but I'm doing lots of abstractions, so it doesn't really belong in a certain depth, or doesn't even need to have X and Y coordinates. I just need to create or instantiate this someplace. So this is why I'm usually entering like 0, 0, 0, so it's on depth 0 at X and Y 0. And thank you, Automated Unicorn, for moving a rainbow. And the object that I want to instantiate is, of course, the game manager. And why is this underlined? Global struct. Okay, probably it's been a while that I've looked into GameMaker globals. So let's open up and see. Oh, it's global dot. Now I get it. That was the problem. So global dot game manager. Okay, now it works. So then I can say in my game manager, when the game manager gets created, I say game manager or created game manager. So this I'm going to copy. So we have the game manager, the input manager, the audio manager. Why did I hit enter? The UI manager. And the view manager, which is graphics and everything. I'm using these debugs so that I know that everything has been created, and I just can see it in the log that things worked. Okay, so far, then we just duplicate this and say, okay, we get here the game manager, the audio manager, MGR audio, input. What else do we have? UI. And the view. So what probably or at some point might be important is the order in which these things are instantiated. For example, in my experience, usually the view, the graphics manager needs to be instantiated first, because then it reads maybe the player's preferences and changes the screen size and screen position first before doing anything else. Then I think the last one is the actual game manager, because there is no game up to this point that already exists. Then probably after the view, you want to be able to read the input and have a UI or a window when something does not work, that you can create a window that says, yeah, audio not initialized or something. And then you create the audio manager because the game itself is the least important thing when you initialize things, and first you want to have all the systems working. So one thing that I also do is to have it's not so much as a linked list or so, but I want that for example, or the event manager. I've completely forgot the event manager, because again, that is also probably important to have things be aware of other managers. So for example, if the view manager for some reason needs to talk to the game manager, it should have a reference to it. Or does it? Because this usually is probably the domain of the event manager. So when, for example, the game says, hey, a new game has been started, then it should issue an event and all subscribers to say, okay, a new game is started. So the view manager needs to know, okay, I need to change to, I don't know, window size or something because a game got started or whatever it pertains to. So in that case, of course, it only needs to subscribe to the event manager. So for this, probably the event manager is the most important thing because all other managers need to have references to it. Since it's global, of course, I can, whenever I need the event manager, I can just call this global manager. But from what I've heard or read in the documentation, it's faster to have a local variable in the instance instead of always looking up the global variable. So I could, for example, give here my global, let's say, for example, global view manager, and there I could say event manager is a reference to global event manager, something like this. Of course, this also means that here in my view manager, I need to have a variable, let's say, or var is, so event is no one. So essentially this means I initialize here the variable that I call event with no one. So I mean, maybe it's good to unify this and just call it. So what I'm thinking about is when I want to issue an event, for example, then I can say, hey, in the event manager, whatever I'm going to call it, hey, event manager, add event or just add, and then I would structure my event as event or ev type, let's say, view, and the event itself would be of, I don't know, just some struct or so. So this would be my preferred way. So I am going to call this event and no, like this. And oh, I'm zoomed out here incorrectly. So, and have this here for all others. So the audio manager, the game manager. So the event manager, I don't think I have even, the event manager doesn't have a create event. Event manager, game manager, init, good, input manager, UI manager, and the view manager already has it here. So let's get back to our init manager. So once all these things have been created, then I can go in and assign references to the event manager to all other managers. So the view manager gets it, the input manager, the UI manager, the audio manager, and the game manager all get because a little bit nicer looking, get the reference to the event manager, and then is able, of course, to call functions in the event manager. Okay, so I'm going to run this program now, and what we actually should be seeing is first we start here in the init room, which is gray, but since the first thing that it does is creates the init manager. The init manager creates all the other managers, assigns to all the other managers the reference to the event manager, and then switches over to the first actual game screen. And since every manager gets created, we should already see it here in the output and then essentially land here on this blue main room. Let's try it. Apparently it was still running here in the background. And yes, so we have here the blue room, and down here it said starting init, we created all the managers, and then it said init complete. So at least this part, let's save, this part worked. Good. So I'm going to close everything now to clean this up. And you know what? I'm going to pull the event init manager. And can I pull it out? Yeah, probably should keep it in there. Just because it was a different sort of manager. Because it doesn't exist. So at this point, when we're here in the main part of our game, all managers should exist. So what should these managers do? And since I want to implement this sort of event system, I need to create some functions here in this event manager that can be called from others. Well, again, I've never done an event system before, so I'm just flying by the seat of my pants. So we will see how this goes. So one thing that I want, of course, is different types of events where you can say, hey, please subscribe to the, I don't know, game events, or please subscribe to audio events or something. Of course, have different sort of lists that are updated each frame and then just processed. So to discern between different event types, let's make an enum of EV type. And let's give it some things like audio, view, game, UI, input. And I think those are the different event types. So, and for every event type, I want to create a queue. So let's say, let's start with queue and call it audio is DS for data structure, queue, create, and there we go. And then I can, when I want to enqueue something, I can just call DSQ, whatever its name is, and can queue things. Of course, one thing that I need to make sure is whenever I destroy this event manager and say here destroy, I need to clean all these queues up. So one thing is that I say DSQ destroy queue audio. So let's do this again for audio, view, game, UI and input. And by destroy, I just say, or can I do multiple lines? Yes, I can. So DSQ destroy. Okay. So input. Okay, it doesn't. It's not as comfortable as doing this in VS Code, but it should work. So just to make sure that we're cleaning things up again. Whenever I create a new queue or a new data structure, the first thing I do is, before I'm adding anything else, is to make sure that it gets cleaned up properly when the object itself is destroyed. So we create now something. We have here the queues, and I think now we can get started with functions and just, I just called it input, not input, and just test things. So yeah, I have a queue here. Let's go with function. And when we create an event, what should we call it? Is it publish, or what's a good word? Let's go with create. Event create, and then it says event type. Oh, event type is here green because apparently it's... Oh, okay. It's... I just thought whether it might be a protected name. So this is why I'm using here the underscore in front of its name, which has been the traditional, or at least common way to denote something is a local variable to this function in this case. So we create an event type and the event itself. And depending on what, and then we switch on the event type. Maybe even type it correctly. And depending on which type the event is, it gets enqueued in a certain queue. So switch case event type is EV type audio, then data structure NQ or data structure Q, DQ, NQ, there we go. And it's Q audio. And whatever the event is, we just enqueue it there. Break. Good. So this, usually I'm not a big fan of doing cases in one line, but in this case, pun intended, in this case, it might add to legibility or retain legibility. So if it's an audio event, it goes here. If it's a view event, it goes to view. If it's a game event, of course, it's a UI event. And an input event. Cool. So we can create events. And now, of course, at some point we need to say, hey, now let's work all the queues, the events that have been queued up, and distribute them, and as soon to all the publishers. So I think to all, not the publisher, to the receiver. So probably it would make sense to have a function where certain objects or managers could subscribe to certain event types where they just listen to. So maybe this should be something that we also do. So subscribe, and then we say to which event type do we want to subscribe. And this is subscriber. Okay, question. So since we have here now we have here queues for all the events. Would it make sense to also have queues for subscribers where we can say, you know what, let's add another event type that is just called all, just in case I need it. So this is why I also use here the underscore. So when, let's assume I'm subscribing to, I mean, it would, I'm not sure if I need all at this point. Let's take it out. Okay, a hypothetical situation. My game manager or my game manager subscribes to the input events. So whenever an input is raised, the game responds. So this would mean that my event manager also has not just queues for events like audio events, but also queues for subscribers to audio events. So let's rename here the queue for audio. Console is here. Hello, Console. We're trying to make an event system, or by we I mean I'm trying to do an event system, and I've never done this before with GameMaker, so I'm just flying by the seat of my pants, as I said before. So we have here queues for event audio. So I'm going also call this here, or let's make this queue EV. That is a little bit shorter and hopefully still clear what's going to happen. Then we're clearing, when we're destroying, we're clearing these things. So, and also what we create are not just queues for these events, but also for subscribers for this. So now we have lots of queues. And I'm thinking of in terms of data structure when I'm processing these things. So probably we shouldn't use a queue for subscribers. I mean, it gets worked like a queue with each frame when the messages are being distributed or published. But the queue means when I dequeue something, it's gone from the queue. So instead of using a queue, probably I should use a list or something. So that is probably better. So it's not a queue, it's a list. And instead of prefixing it here with Q, I'm going to prefix it here with L. So we also should, when we destroy it, make sure that we have here ds list, destroy, and I have this here. Good. Okay, so when we create an event, it is of a different type, and we subscribe to an event. We also want to switch the event type. And depending on which event type, we say ds, instead of q, we say ds list add. And I mean, we could even check whether a subscriber to a list is already on that list. So to avoid that having like when you subscribe to a list like 30 times, and then of course not that you get sent 30 times the same event back, which of course would make no sense. So I think I need to filter the list afterwards. So we add something to the list, and then we just say, hey, please make sure that once we add it and subscriber to a list, make sure that it only appears there once. The question is, what is faster? Should we first check before we add, or should we? Yeah, probably it's best when we check before that. So for this, I make a local function. Oh, thank you, Disease, for redeeming Hydrate. Let's try it differently. Can I check here with the ds list, in the ds list functions, whether it already exists there? Find index, find value, probably somewhere there. ds list find value. Or is here in ds list add, can I have here where I say, hey, only once if it's not existing? I don't think. But let's go with find index. You can check the given list for a value and the position within the list. If not, then -1. Okay. So when we say, hey, if this is not found in the list, then let's add it. And then we can, you know what, let's call this list save add or unique add or something. And then I'm just rolling here my own option. So ds list add unique. Right, and for this to work, this needs to be a function. And also, I don't know where is a good place to place this, but since I'm using it probably only here, let's say here with helper functions, let's place it in this object. So ds list add unique is the list and the event to add. Or not the event, let's call it item or value to add. Now let's go with item. So, right, if ds list find index of in the list of the item, now let's go with ID. Okay, so the first is the list type. There we go. Type list item. Okay, so I want to subscribe. And the subscriber is, this is what we need to insert. The subscriber and the event. Okay, so when I want to add something, for example, the event type and the subscriber. It doesn't need the event. We're just about talking about the subscriber. Oh, damn, I'm scatterbrained. So, ds list add unique. So, it's the type. No, it's the list and it's the item. It was good before. It was good before. So, if the item in the list has a position of -1, this means we can safely add it. ds list add to this list add this item. Otherwise, nothing happens. And I mean, we could say return true, and if it didn't, return false. Because then we can say if list add unique, and if not, then we can raise an error or something. So and let's okay, let's reassess. I have here my event manager, and in this event manager I can create the function to create an event, and for other objects to subscribe to an event. And this subscription makes sure that when the item is not already on this list, only then it gets added to this list of subscribers. So the question is now, at which point should the event be handled? I mean, usually I would say, hey, just do it in the main loop. With every new frame, just handle everything that's in the queue. But of course, maybe you want some events to be handled immediately and not with the next frame. So, and I'm just wondering how to best have this, some sort of a priority queue, where essentially it's just a table with a pointer or a function or a reference to a function that gets executed instantly. Or for now, I could just say, hey, just work whatever is here in the events at the beginning of each frame or the next frame. I think we could try this. So let's say here step, and here under begin step. So the step means with every new tick of the engine. So when you have it set to 60 frames, it's with every frame. So at the beginning of all other step processing, let's go here. Let's say notify subscribers. So, and I think what makes sense is that the events get consumed by it. So if someone is not picking up or listening or not listening, whatever, it's just being sent out to every subscriber. And if there are no subscriber, then the queue is just emptied. And I think we can do this. So for each of our event lists, let's start with just here the audio events for now. So first of all, if ds list size of the audio list is greater than 1 or is greater than 0, of course, only then we process it. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. Otherwise, let's just clear the list or clear the queue. ds queue clear, and the queue is the audio events. Hope this makes sense. Okay, so if no one is subscribed to audio events, then we don't send anything out, we just clear all the audio events. It's not very likely to happen with audio, but maybe, I mean, again, it depends on which frame we're currently on, so probably it could happen that we don't have any subscribers to something. Good. So, but of course, if we do have it, then we need to iterate the list. So first, let's check how can I quickly iterate over a list. Okay, create, size, list, add, set, find, index, insert, replace, shuffle, sort, or list copy. This list can be used to hold the S maps and also can be serialized. Okay, so apparently there is no easy way. Maybe find value, and I specify here the position. Okay, this list find value. Probably it's a for loop. How do I write for loops? Code snippets. There we go. For loop. Or even initialize. There we go. For I equals 0, I is less than the DS list size. Of L sub audio. Then the current item is DS list. DS list find value in L sub audio at position I. And to this, in this list or in this subscriber, we call a function that should exist there. And this is in, or let's call it not item, but subscriber. Subscriber. And in subscriber, we call receive event, and then we should give it the event. So event, good. But first, of course, we need to say, we need to iterate over the queue. So while DSQ not empty, or DSQ size of the queue for the audio events is greater than 0. Let's check what this actually returns. It returns a real number. If DSQ empty, this is probably easier. If DSQ not empty, or in this case, in our case, it's a while DSQ not empty, that is the audio queue event audio, then the current event is whatever is in there, and then for each event we notify all the subscribers. And so when we dequeue, what is dequeue size? Return will the size of the queue. Well, event items that have been queued into it. We don't need the size, we just need to dequeue it. So the event is dequeue. Okay, you're my rubber ducky. Let's walk through this code. So with every step, in this case, we're just looking at the audio queue, the queue of any audio events for every frame. So the first thing is the queue, or first, well, maybe if we can check, is the queue empty? So if the queue is not empty, and we have more than 0 subscribers to it. If the queue is empty, then we can clear the queue and we do not need to notify any subscribers. And if there aren't any subscribers, well, no one's gonna hear what we publish, then we can also clear the queue for this frame. Otherwise, so the queue is not empty and there are subscribers, then we check, okay, is the queue empty? No, it's not. Then we dequeue whatever is on this queue as event. And with this event, we go through all subscribers and run the function receive event there. So let's, of course, make this function and see. This is why maybe it might have been good to have some sort of parent object from which these are inherited, because now for every managers I have to make a function that is called receive event, which takes an event. And for now we can just say show debug message event, so just that we know that we received this event. This is here just with audio. Okay, so here to again, because I'm probably going to copy this for all the other queues that we have, I'm also using here local variables. Let's go with variable current queue is the queue ev audio. So audio, 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 and current subscribers or current list, there we go, is the list of the audio subscribers. So now I can just copy paste this and just change here whatever the current queue and the current list is. So just not just for the audio queue, but I mean the audio queue is our test. So okay, to test this, let's run it, and it should run without any error messages, which it does not. So what is happening here? Create event, variable manager event item not set before reading. So I'm calling something that does not exist. So we're already in a good position here. So it's in our event manager and you're at the create event. So ds, oh, I need to call it function. That's the thing. I didn't specify it as a function. Classic. So, okay, we're here in the blue, which means this is not our init room, but our main room. And this works. Good. Okay, so all this code that we typed runs without errors. Now let's do some tests and to see if it actually works. So let's say we're here in our main room and the audio manager. Let's make here a create event, not the create event, a step event. So again, this runs with every frame. And then we can say here, this is just for debugging. So if the current room that we're in, current room, oh no, it's room current, or just room. If the room is room main, then we add an audio event. Or if the room is main, I just want to run this once, so I'm using here another variable. Let's say do init. This is usually what I call my functions here. So in the create event, I set here a value that is called do init to true. Here in the step event, I say if do init is true, do something, and at the very end, do init is false. Which means, again, this only runs the first step event and not instantly, which is good to have this run at a slightly later point, at least in my experience. So, okay, if the current room is main, then we say, hey, please, I want to subscribe to audio events. Okay, so this is the audio manager, but the audio manager itself wants to subscribe to audio events. This is just for testing. So event subscribe, and the event type is EV type audio, and this means the ID is the ID of the current object, of the current instance, which is ourself here, the audio manager. So the audio manager wants to subscribe to audio. And you know what, let's also do something here, just an incrementor is 0. So that runs with every frame. Is it increment or increment? Incrementor, I think this is correct. So with each step, we just increase the incrementer. And so we say if, we can do this even here. So if the incrementer is exactly, let's say after 1 second is exactly 60, then we add an audio event, just so that we can see that this actually works and we receive the audio event. So if this is 60, then event and say, what did I call it? Create. So the event type is of EV type audio that we create. And the event itself is sound effect played. For now, it's just a simple string. So what should happen now is we give it this event, gets sent to the event manager, and within the next step, the event manager notifies us here that we received this event, which should print sound effect played. Maybe we can even say, we can even add debugging messages. So show debug message event received, and this should work. So after 1 second, this should run. Okay, where did I go wrong? DS list argument incorrect type. Okay, queue expecting list. Okay, probably wrong data type in line 5. Because I'm passing incorrect things. So was it here? What was the error message again? Let's have a look at it. So error in action number 1 in the step event for the audio manager. DS list find DSQ expecting as list. We are here at add unique. Okay. So add unique. So the list, and this is a queue, not the list. That is the thing. So the list is the list of subscribers and not the events. That was the issue. Okay, good. And I'm not sure if you've looked down here, but it said event received, sound effect played, and this did it after 1 second. So I will run this again. So, or you know what, just to make it a little bit more obvious. Where was I? I'm very much zoomed in. So here in the step event, whenever the incrementer modulo is of type 60 of 60 frames equals 0. So with every second, hopefully this we should receive this event down here in the output console. And it's working. That is very cool. So I'm not sure how clunky this is or not, but it's possible now that we can have events and also react to events. I make this a little bit smaller. So one thing that I just wanted to do is when I hit escape, I wanted the game to end. At least this is helpful for debugging. So let's do something here. And so the incrementer, because this is going to be a debugging thing, I will call it D-incrementer. And yes, this is an incrementer with a D in front. So I'm going to call it D-incrementer, but it's actually incrementing and not de-incrementing. So the D in front is for debugging, so that I know myself that this is actually a debugging variable. Right, okay, so when I want to, whenever I hit the escape key, I want the game to end. How can I do this? So first we need to receive an event here in the game as well. So I have here the event function and event received. And also when the question is, when should we subscribe to the event manager? It says here now we subscribe when we're in the main room. Probably we want to subscribe right away. So when can I do this? So let's have a look here at our initialization. So what currently happens is the initializer creates all the managers, first of all the event manager, and then when it had created all the other managers, which means in all managers runs the create event once after the other, and only when this is complete, it assigns here this event, the reference to the event manager. You know what? Let's do not do this and instead say, hey, when the input manager gets created, when the view manager gets created, the first thing it does is it checks if this global variable is set, and if it is, then it will use this as the event manager. So event equals global event manager. And I mean, I could say if instance exists global event manager, even only then should it do this. Otherwise, it should, I mean, this is, can I do assertions? Assert, remove tags, assert room. No, okay. I want to do an assertion, but you know what? At this point, I think this is the simplest. Otherwise, I mean, if this doesn't work, we have bigger problems. So at this point, we have the assumption that event, let's call this event mgr, is the global event manager. Let's keep things consistent. So when I create here my game, the first thing it does is it assigns the global event manager. When I have here my audio, it does the same thing. The game with the input, the event is the global event manager, the UI. So everyone, when they get created, they get the reference to the event manager. So here in my audio debugging thing, I do not need to subscribe to this, and instead event mgr, need to make sure that the new variable name is updated. So let's try this. Essentially it should still work exactly as before, and it does not. So there aren't any events being received from this. Why not? Oh, because I didn't subscribe. Because the audio did not subscribe. So this is now possible because now the event manager exists. And so I can say now, event manager subscribe for the event type, EV type audio, myself. Now this should work. Yes, so here we have every second we receive this event. So it's much simpler now, and again I wanted to hit escape, so this is not working yet. So let's say here with the game is allowed to end the game, the entire application. Maybe I could even have a manager that is just for the application, the manager for the game, but for now let's keep this, let's mush this together. So for this, I mean here in the step event, when we're processing what we have received. So let's say here first with the step event, so or instead we have here received event, maybe in here when we receive an event, and there we can say switch on the event. So for now events are just strings, which is probably not the best. Let's make an event a struct, so that we can say or let's maybe make this here under event. So an struct, can I do this? Struct exists, struct for each, struct exists, struct name. Is there help for structs? Okay, this function checks whether a variable name exists within the given struct. Okay, variable functions. Okay, this again, I cannot define a struct. A struct is just something that I probably define myself in a very loose way. So let's have here struct remove, struct set, get struct names. Let's say here, maybe I can find structure. Code structure, data structure. New struct, get structs and constructors. There we go. So my struct, essentially it's like you make a in JavaScript an object. So let's say event. So this is an event struct. So what an event should be. And we can give an event a type. Just to make sure so that the event type is of ev type something. Let's go with any. Add this to the struct. Cool. Okay, so we have our event type. And then, of course, depending on what kind of event it is, if it is an audio event, then probably it has a sound effect associated with it. Or if it's an, let's call this event audio struct. So what I'm defining here, this is more or less documentation. So just that I know what every different event type is actually composed of. So we have here the, let's go with input struct or event game struct. Okay, so the question that I'm having is, when I'm hitting escape, should the message be, hey, escape was pressed? Or should it already be semantically and say, hey, it was requested that the game would end? So I think let's make this. So let's call it event type game. And then we can say just string or just S for something. Because, I mean, I could also make this an enum, so where I can say, hey, this is not just an event type, but this is a game event of a certain type. So the game event could be game close, game start, game restart or something. Or for now, I can just use a string and use a string comparison, which might be for debugging and testing probably the better idea. Like I said, for now, if something happens 100 times per frame, probably I should do it differently. Console says, in my opinion, the event is what it is. What is you can subscribe to key events or game events. An item was picked up. Yeah, the event is what is what it is. Right. Again, so if I say the input manager, the input looks at the keyboard and already knows, okay, currently the Q, the letter Q or the letter escape means that the game that is a quit semantic that is currently mapped to the quit action. If you're in a menu, then the quit action becomes cancel out of the menu. If you're in the main menu, then the quit action is mapped to end game. Or if you're in the game and you have the quit option, then it's mapped to then the game says, okay, when I'm in the state of in game and someone says quit, then I should notify and say, hey, do you really want to quit? Maybe something like this. So again, it already gets a little bit complicated like this. And I'm trying to find the best way of doing this. But again, Console, thank you for your input and thank you for following along, because I know it's a little bit dry of a stream when you don't see anything, where it's just me using you as my rubber ducky. But it really helps me when we have people that actually respond. Kersey says, it's the difference between the hardware left button and the after input remapping left button. Yes, I think it is. So, and the question is, where should this happen? Because the input manager probably just looks at whatever happens and say with every step, it looks at, okay, what key is currently pressed or has been pressed. So, let's make here a step event. And GrogDev is here and says, hoi GrogDev, we're trying to implement a messaging or an event system with GameMaker without having any game surrounding it. So right now I'm just trying to implement when you hit escape, then the game should end. And with everything, all the little intricacies around it. Okay, so let's make this very simple. Here in our input manager, we say if keyboard check pressed, and the key is, let's go with the escape key. Escape. Then the input manager can say, hey, the semantic key or the action cancel is true. And of course, we initialize it with every step. The action cancel is false. So, and when the action cancel is true, or cancel action, should the cancel action look at the key or the key at the action? Damn it. So, because at some point you want to offer key remapping. Maybe not for all keys, maybe escape key is always the same key. Just to have some sort of sanity where you always say, yeah, escape. If you want to escape out of key remapping, you hit the escape key, and not when you press the escape key. It will be set as the new key. I hope this makes sense. So, again, it's about semantics. So the input manager, I'm thinking of a keypad where depending on what context you're in, the keys behave differently. Again, if you're in a menu and hit X, it means okay. If you're outside and in the game and hit X, it means attack or something. So, should this be the primary key? Should the input manager be aware of context, or should maybe the game be aware of context? And the input manager says, hey, the primary key was pressed, and or do we say, yeah, we have a set of keys that pertain to the UI and a set of keys that pertain to the actions that are taken in game. Oh god, it's a puzzle, right? I mean, for now, let's before I'm getting away and making things much too complicated here, let's just be concrete and say, okay, I'm checking now if the action cancel is pressed. So whatever key, let's say just let's say here in the create event, just for debugging, cancel key, whatever is currently set to the keyboard key escape. Not space, escape. So, and let's make it key cancel. So here in this step event, if the keyboard key of cancel was pressed, then let's do something. So we don't need the action cancel because at some point we mapped escape key to cancel. When I remap it, then I can say, hey, then maybe it's not cancel, it's VK enter or whatever. So I think this is much better. So at this point we say, hey, we hit the cancel key. Let's create an event. Hey, event manager, create. The event type is of EV type input, and the event was cancel. Again, is a string right now. We can at some point probably should change this for something a little bit more robust, but again, for now, let's just keep it with that. So cancel, cool. So the input manager does not receive as of now events, which is okay. So let's close everything and get back to it. Okay, overview. What we want to do is, you're in the game and the event manager, the input manager, here in the input manager, we assigned the escape key as the key cancel. So this already has a semantic meaning. So with every step, we check if the cancel key, whatever it might be, was pressed. If it is pressed, then we tell the event manager to create, or we create an event of an input event that is cancel. So, and now the event manager says here with the next step, hey, whoever was subscribed to this By the way, this is the audio queue. Let's make an input queue, or let's have the input queue on top and say this var I need to take out because it can only happen once. So I'm just defining here the variables that I do not need to use var. So the current queue would be the queue for events input. And the current list would be all the subscribers to input. Okay, now our game here. Now we have here a switch. So the game itself already has the event manager, and then we can say, hey, event manager. Let's zoom in, event manager. I want to subscribe to input events. So now the game manager is hooked up to the input events. So, and once we receive an event, then we should parse it. So switch event, and since event again is a struct, let's have a look here at our event manager. So what every event has here is the field of type. So if we look at the event type, so this is the first nested switch, and there we go. Okay, if, or case of course, if the event type is of EV type input, because we can be subscribed to different events. So EV type input. So, and then break, lest I forget. So, and now since we're here in the input event, then we can say, hey, switch on the other part of this event. And this is event, in this case, I think I called it S for string for now. So S. So whatever is S, and if S is cancel, switch case cancel. Then let's break out of it. Thank you, Automated Unicorn, for reminding me to have water. So if we cancel, then make sure we're in the right game state at some point, but game exit or game end in this case. So whenever cancel is being pushed, right now I'm not checking in what state of the game we currently are. It doesn't matter. No matter where we are, the game should end. Hopefully. So let's test this out. Let's test this out. Okay, so our fake sound effect gets happens every second, and now I hit escape, and at least something happens. Okay, unable to use string cancel as struct. Okay, this makes sense because I didn't do exactly that. So input, we didn't create a proper struct, so it needs to be of right. So the event, you know what? I do not even have to say what kind of event it is, because since we're passing a struct anyway, and it has here the type, I can provide the type in the struct. Okay, console. Okay, Frank says, I think I'm going to have an early night, so good night and have fun the rest of the stream. Thank you so much, Frank. Rest well. Hope you have a wonderful week, well-rested week, and thank you for sticking with me until right now. And thank you for, apparently there was nothing where you had to shout at me for doing things utterly incorrect. So thank you, Frank. Hope you have a wonderful week. And Console says, I often design events against two trigger cases, something a key press or an in-game dialogue choice can trigger. This often clarifies where the logic should live. Okay, I need to parse what you just said and hope that I can understand it. Okay, you design events against two trigger cases, like something, a key press or an... Okay, what is a trigger case? This I don't understand what you're saying by this. I'm sorry. That's on me. But first, to make this work here, I need to restructure here my event creation thing. Because now I'm creating an event and passing it a struct that has, hey, the type is whatever type, and the S in this case is just a string of the event. This is now underlined red because this expects different parameters. So let's go to the event. And when I say, hey, when we say create an event, I do not need to switch the event type. I can just pick the event and look at the type field. And depending on that, I can just pass it or sort it correctly. Then, of course, when I'm dispatching an event, which happens here in the begin step, I guess this should work. Maybe not for the audio event. So let's say here the audio event is type audio event, and it has the S of played. And when we here receive the event, we receive the event, and it prints S. And hopefully this should work. So it still says here sound effect played. When I hit escape, the game ends. So again, I'm pretty happy now that this works. Cool. So this means, let's close all but this. This means, of course, that the game itself, at some point here when I'm receiving the event and handling the event, maybe I need to have here a function where it says function handle cancel request. Cancel request. Handle cancel request. Because again, this depends on the current state of the game, which means, like I said, is there an UI currently open? Because if there is an UI open, you want to pop off the last menu that you were. Maybe you even want to save any settings or things that you changed in the menu that is currently being displayed. So escape means go out of it. So again, this is a big fat to-do. Tofu tofu at some point, but for now let's just still say game end. Let's see if this still works. Yes it does. Okay, cool. So to sum up, at this point we have a way to dispatch events, and our event is a type of struct that has a type, and we can check here in our game, for example, if there was an input event, then we can say, okay, was this a cancel event? Then we handle the cancel event. The cool thing about this is, for example, when I have a player character, that I can also subscribe to an input event and then can see, okay, is the button still being held or something, or has it been released, and act accordingly. So essentially, as the player or pretty much any other object, I do not need to look at the keyboard that is currently being pressed, or what kind of controller currently is pressed. All it needs is, hey, the input was make a step forward, no matter if it was on a keyboard, the W, or a gamepad was the stick forward. I mean, I haven't implemented this, but again, this shouldn't be, it doesn't, so it makes it a little bit more robust, because even if certain things exist, or certain instances exist or don't exist, if they don't exist, they just don't produce events. So, okay, console, thank you first for being so patient with me to describe what you're meaning. Okay. You wondered earlier where the event should be processed in the input manager ? Sometimes an event could also be triggered a second way, for example an in-game mechanic instead of a key press. Oh, right, this makes sense. I wanted to express that I always try to come up with two situations where an event might get started. Imagine the quit event. It could live in the input manager that listens to the key, but what if quitting could be a dialogue choice in game? It would be weird to call the input manager then. Exactly. So essentially, so this close event could be here. For example, my game could also have. I mean, we could this handle cancel request could come from multiple sources. Indeed, yes, that is correct. So I just make here this one line. Hopefully that I don't need it. So let's imagine it could be a dialogue option where one character really says, "Hey, do you really want to cancel the game or something?" Then it can be of EV type, let's say game, and this also is when we switch the event string or payload, and also then we can say here end game. Then we also say handle the cancel request. Did I type this incorrect? Because now, of course, the game itself can have this end game request. I hope that this is what you meant, because here now in the input manager, all the input says, hey, a key, since an input event of type cancel happened. Again, if we're in a menu, this could mean to cancel out of the menu. If it's here on the title screen, it could mean to end the game. But as you said, if there's a dialogue option or something else that triggers this, then instead of being a little bit context sensitive or context dependent, because like I said, cancel can mean different things in different contexts. But of course, if you have something that is specific, where it says, okay, I didn't close here my case, to end the game no matter what, we do not have to look at the input, but instead it's a game event, and the game event says, hey, end the game, whatever who raised this, right? So I hope how I have set things up that the input can say, yeah, handle cancel request, and here end game. I mean, we don't even need here this cancel request, because this could mean function handle end game request. So handle end game request, and this ends the game. So I have here this one step of abstraction again. So this means, okay, first when you hit cancel on like I said, escape. So handle cancel request means, okay, what does mean cancel? Are we in a menu? Well, then cancel out of the menu and be done with it. In case we're not in a menu, then we can say, okay, it's more definite what we want to do, handle the game end request. And then it could check, okay, is the current state, so we know we aren't in a menu anymore, but are we in a state where it's okay to end the game? And if so, only then we allow the game to end. So if I hit escape, exactly the same thing should happen, and it does. So again, I introduced here some abstractions where it says, again, the cancel is rather vague what it means, but then if everything that was cancelable is cancelled out of, then we can end the game. Let's save this. Oh, apparently I can create an asset. Apparently it's control something when my fat fingered control S. Cool. That I like. Let's step through it once again with the what's currently happening. And so I close all the windows. So when we launched game, it launches here room init. Room init has only one thing in it. Thank you. And this is the init manager, which is this thing here. So the init manager, when it gets created, it writes starting init, and it creates the event manager and all other managers. Once it's done creating all the other managers, it says init complete and changes to the main room, which is the room with the blue background. So in all the other managers, like here the game manager, when it gets created, the first thing it does, it gets here the handle to the event manager, and in this case subscribes to the input, in case here of the game. The input manager, for example, also when it gets created subscribes to the event manager, and here we defined, okay, what the cancel key is. And again, maybe at some point we want to remap it, which should be possible, and then we can even save it. So here, and every time when we press now the cancel key, then we raise the event, hey, an input of cancel was issued, and whoever is subscribed to the input events handles it. In our case, the game controller subscribed to all types of input. And you know what? Maybe we can even say, hey, subscribe to all types of game. And then it has here a function that is called receive event. This is important that all our managers have a receive event function. Again, I mean, right now I'm just copy pasting this. We could use some sort of inheritance, which I'm not too fond of because yada problems when I'm changing things. So I don't have anything against a little bit of code duplications, because I've realized with game dev it often happens where you think, oh, it's pretty much the same thing, and then you add special cases here because it's not quite the same thing. And long story short, where you thought you could reuse the code, instead it has devolved or forked so much that it has nothing in common with how you first laid it out. So this is why I'm not too much afraid of code duplication. At some point when I know, okay, I'm like 50% in this project and really it needs the exact same code, then I can still unify it when I'm doing my refactoring. Yeah, this is the other thing of when I'm programming and game deving. Usually I flip between, okay, today is my implementation day where I'm creating new things and trying things out, and the next day is the refactoring day where I'm not adding anything new. I'm just cleaning things up and making things nice and very clear on what's happening. So this is my constant cleaning up after myself when I'm implementing things, because if one thing overtakes, like if you're just implementing new things, of course you will make a mess, and if you're just refactoring, maybe then you're trying to refactor a little bit too much. So it's always, I need to keep the balance there. Right, do I still have tea? No, I've run out of tea. So I still got about half an hour on the clock. So my throat is still with me here. So the question is, I think we're on a pretty good trajectory right now. Maybe again to clean things up. Like I said here, this receive event needs to be in every create a step, and then we need of course to switch on the event type and then switch on the event. So maybe this is really something that I can just copy. So right now this is empty, but again, this is just my stub so that I know I need to do this for all. So here in the create and in the view manager, in the game, I already have it here, and in the audio manager, I have here receive event, and right now it just displays event received and then prints it out. So event audio, and then in this case, maybe the audio event could be not just in this case as a string, but it could also be, hey, please play the audio file of, I don't know, enemy being hit, and it's of type game audio, so it's not UI audio or voiceover audio or music audio. And then in this case, the audio manager could play it at the right volume. When I know, okay, the game volume is set to 10%, then and then it also gets the file and so on. So again, maybe for audio I need more than just here this s parameter, which is a string right now, but that is a to do. So in our case, I can just say, hey, here, let's just debug what is there. So and here in our case, we just say sound effect played. I mean, we could try to implement here now a sound effect for us to play. I think I trust myself at doing this. At least a very simple one. If you recall from initially what I envisioned my audio manager to be, is that you queue audio or you queue sound files into a queue. For example, if like 300 enemies explode at the very same frame, you do not want to play 300 times the same audio file. You want to play it once and at a certain volume, at the highest volume, for example. And I also want to have different types of audio. So in-game audio, UI audio, music, so that you have a different volume setting. So for example, if the game says, if there's an event that says, hey, please play music 15, then the audio manager should know, okay, if already music is playing, then I fade it out or transition over or whatever. For example, but if a game sound is playing, it should not cancel out all other current sounds, but instead add on top of it unless it's the same sound. All these kinds of things I want to add to the audio manager. But yeah, for now, let's just find a sound effect. And since I'm very structured, I have multiple stock sound effects. Let's go with some game sound effects. What would be a cute game sound effect? What do I have here? Final Fantasy VII. Oh, a selection sound here from Final Fantasy VII. For those who still remember this, it's the sound in the menu. I think we can take this. This would be cute. So, let's create here a group and call it audio. So let's check here. So it's uncompressed, not streamed. Channel is stereo, 16 bits. Export directory for now, it's all good. Conversion for OGG only. And we call it S&D select. Cool. Okay. So we call this effect here in the audio manager. Or you know what? Every time I hit the up key or something, then we want to create this audio event. Let's say. So I'm here in my input manager and say key next or UI next is the up key, and key UI previous is the down key. So again, now I'm checking if I'm hitting the keyboard key once, and this is check keyboard key UI next. Then I say the input, and this was the UI next was triggered. So if we're in the UI, then of course this means we take the next item or the previous item, and the same thing here. Previous item UI next and UI previous. So then the game, hopefully the game should understand that we have an input that is, or is this an UI input? That is the question. Who should issue the sound effect, right? Because the input is not really interested in, hey, should we play a sound effect or not? So who should receive the input effect and then issue a sound effect? I mean, for now, let's have here the game. So let's say here we have a case of the input, and the input, where did we have it? View UI. Because then the game could delegate it maybe to the UI controller or something. But you know what? Let's assume, no, that it's not the game, but the input controller who receives UI next. So the input, not the input, the UI controller. The UI receives the input. So for this, the UI subscribes to the event manager for the event type. Subscribe event type audio. So, and, or no, input. Input. And when we receive input, and this is UI next. What did I call it? Yeah, UI next and UI previous. Case UI next. Or case UI previous. Then we say, I mean, the UI could check, are we currently in a UI? Can we select the next item or the previous item? And in this case, all we want to do is we want to play some sound. Okay, for this, I create a new event. So with the event manager, I create an event, and the event is of type, or the event is a struct, and the type is event type audio. So, and here for the audio, the audio type, which we haven't defined, is audio type UI. Note to self, we need this to set this type. Then and the audio asset is sound select. So now again, I need to document this. So where is my event manager? Here is my event manager, and here in the create event, let's say event game struct, event audio struct. It has of type event audio. So again, these here aren't used anywhere. This is just for me so that I know what types there are. So the audio type is should probably be defined here as an enumeration here in audio. So audio type, enum audio type is not this, is UI. Let's make this a bit bigger. The audio type could be UI audio, or game audio, or music, or I don't know, voiceover, or I call this here last, or any, just so that we have it. So the audio type in this case would be UI. Good. Okay, so then we're here in the audio manager, and when we receive of type audio, and in this case we don't get or receive the event with S with a string, or maybe the S could be, maybe the event could be, hey, play this sound effect, or stop this sound effect. This is also possible. So in my UI manager, where we say, hey, please select the next audio, and then we want to, let's say here, the S would be the command, and this would be play. Just simple as that. So input event manager. Then we have here S is play. Command. Good. So back here in our audio manager, we switch here the S, and the case would be play. Okay, when it says, hey, please play me this sound effect, for example, then we could make sure, hey, is the sound effect currently playing? I'm not checking this, but this would be the place where I do this. Or in this case, we can say, I mean, just say play, or audio play sound. Ext, and ext means we got additional parameters. So what are these parameters? We have here the priority. Should it loop? Should it have a certain gain or offset or pitch? So again, this is essentially things that we could even add to the audio event if we want to. So this is a struct. Thinking, should we do this now? I mean, maybe we could. So instead of having here all this thing like here as play or something, we could have here the priority loop. You know what? We don't need this. We don't need this right now. Phil, do exactly what you've said. For now, you don't need loop support or anything. All we need to do is, okay, we say, for example, that the UI audio is half the volume of let's say, the game audio. Okay, so here in our audio manager, we can say here, let's say at some point volume has been set for UI is 0.5 and volume master is 1.0. And Jakester is here and says, hi Phil, I hope you are doing well. Thank you so much for dropping by. Yes, I'm doing extremely well because I started implementing a messaging and event system in GameMaker without having a game so far. Right now it's just testing, but thank you so much. I'm doing great. Hope you are doing well too. DC says, cannot escape the need for polish. That is my problem. So I'm trying to keep it at bay for now. Cheers, by the way. Okay, so I'm setting here my master volume is 1, my game UI volume or UI volume is 0.5, and my game volume, let's say, is 0.75, and volume music, nothing that I've implemented so far, is volume 0.35. So, right. I mean, we could even have a list of the sounds that are currently playing, or a list or a queue. But for now, you know what? Let's not do this. Let's just play sound, and if it's requested, and not care about any of it. So, okay, we want to play the audio file, and the parameters are sound. So the parameters are struct. Sound is what we get from the event, and this is called audio asset. And the other thing is where we have here gain, and the gain, I'm not messing with priority now, and the gain in this case is depends on the audio type, right? So case play, then we say here damn it, we're doing another switch. I'm switching on the event, and the event, where was it? Here in the UI. The event is of audio type UI. So we're switching here on the audio type first. Why did I zoom in doubly? Closing everything up there. So, so I'm switching here on the audio type, and depending on the event, we set here current volume is volume master for now, or yeah, just go with volume master. So, and depending on the audio type, we change the volume. So if the audio type is case audio type, this case UI, current current volume is the volume master times the volume for the UI. Makes sense, right? So break. So what else do we have? We have UI, game, and music. Let's go here with UI game. Do the same thing. Volume master times volume game and music. So those are just stubs. Music. There we go. So, and right, so at this point we have the volume at which we want to play it. Again, we could even have here, we could pass a certain volume that we want the sound effect to be played at, but for now I'm not messing with it. So this is probably the gain that we need. Where is my help file? Oh, this was LD Jam. Let's open it up again. I think I closed it. So yes, the gain is what I need. So we play the sound, not game. Gain is current volume. Because at this point we have it already here from the switch. So we play the sound at this volume, and this should hopefully work. So whenever I hit up or down and are in a menu, then it should play this sound. Jake says, do you know what happened to the other, to the LD Jam site? It's been down for so long. No, I do not. Today I first tried it again after a couple of weeks, and yeah, it's down. And I thought maybe it was just today, but maybe someone should inform Mike, or Mike has intentionally switched it off. I don't know what the current state is, but thank you for letting me know that apparently it's not just today. That's strange. So okay, hopefully we have some sound now. Okay, malformed switch statement. That's a classic fill. Why? Because it's empty. Maybe this works. Then we have another malformed, just giving it a empty default. Let's not implement it, and let's see. So if I'm hitting up or down, it plays here. As it says here, sound effect played, event received, type for play, previous, or next. Cool. So this works. The only downside of all of what I did so far is that it doesn't happen instantaneously. It always takes a frame, more or less, to happen. And with some effects is, for example, where a message goes to one object, which takes a frame, goes to the other object, which takes a frame, and then maybe issues a sound effect. So it takes like 3 frames for a sound effect to be played. So maybe this is something that I can also look into at some point and have some sort of cues that are processed, or events that are dispatched immediately and not just with the next frame, as is currently the case. So just make let's sum up what we just did for those who are following along, or for those, especially for those who aren't. So again, we have here our initialization room, and the initialization object creates our event manager and all other managers that subscribe to the event manager or have references to the event manager. So our input manager has here some keys defined. So when the key for UI next is the up key, and the key for UI down is previous is the down key. So here in the step event, whenever I'm pressing a key, then it passes the pressed key on as an event. In our case, when I hit escape, it says, hey, cancel was pressed, whatever this means for the current context that we're in, or hey, the next UI item was the key for the next UI item was pressed. So in our case, the UI manager subscribes to the input manager, as we have here. So it subscribes to the input manager, and then has here this function that gets called whenever it receives an event. And in our case is, okay, we check which type of event did we receive, and when it was an input event, then we switch on, okay, was it UI next or UI previous? And in either case, I mean, if this were actually a working UI so far, it would check, okay, are we already on the last item, because then we cannot go to the next one, or we wrap around, that sort of thing. In our case, all it does is it ignores that and it creates another event. And this is of type audio, and the command is to play. The audio is of type UI, which changes, depends or sets the volume level for UI. So this is a little bit of metadata we have on the asset that we pass to audio, and the audio is of this sound that we called sound select, which is this one here. So and then no, I'm duplicating it. So we pass it here to the event manager. The event manager here with every step looks at all the current queues and lists. So in our case, we added it here to the input queue, and the list is all the subscribers to this input queue. So of course, if for this frame the current queue is empty, so the input queue is empty, or there are no subscribers, then we just skip it, clear the queue, doesn't matter. Otherwise, as long as there are subscribers we haven't notified, we just take the event from this queue, and for all subscribers, pass it this event. And once this is done, we just clear the queue and all the events are done. So after this one, all the queues are empty. Again, this probably could happen not with each step, but whenever there was an event received, for example. So maybe I can do this here and say it asynchronous audio playback cloud social system, or when a key was pressed. I mean, it would be nice if I could say, if I could have here my own event. Yeah, maybe I can look into this again. For now, it in front of every frame. It processes these queues. So right, in this case, in our case, our subscriber to the input event was the UI event, and the UI event in turn issued an audio event. So 2 frames after the key was pressed, the audio manager finally gets this event. So again, this is why I want it to happen instantaneously, because it takes 2 frames in our case, because of all this deferred messaging around. So what I've set up here, currently hard-coded, is the master volume and the game volume, and in our case, the UI volume. So when we receive the event, first we look at, okay, what type of event is it? Well, hopefully it's an audio event, but of course could be other events. In any case, when it's an audio event, first we show what the event is, and then we look at what the command is. If the command is a play command, then it's go time. So it means, okay, whatever is part of this event in the parameters, we want to play it. First, we check, okay, is it of type UI? Well, then we take the master volume times the UI volume, or the current game volume, or the music volume. So once we have the volume set, then we play whatever audio asset has been part of the payload of this event and play it at whatever audio type it was. And then by that, this event is consumed. Commander Stitch is here and says, oh, you're on vacation this week. I'm in Milwaukee, Wisconsin for the week. That's nice. Great to see you coding away, Pixel. It's so nice of you, despite you being on vacation, still finding the time to drop in and doing, yeah, I'm doing some coding. I'm doing an event system for GameMaker to hopefully just loosely couple, yes, that's right, different managers or different events or different objects together. So the idea is, when, let's say, your play event hits an enemy, not player event, when your player object, player instance hits an enemy instance, let's imagine some Zelda game, when you swing your sword, then the event gets out, hey, the sword was swung, and play this audio file. And the enemy should get the event, hey, I was hit by this damage, please inform everyone involved and also play this audio file. So this would be the idea, and none of the other events needs, or the objects instances are concerned with, okay, which key was pressed, or does the audio manager exist, or is audio currently playing? So this all is done by the managers, and they communicate with each other through events. Again, this is the idea, and this is the current implementation so far. And I think for doing this for now 2.5 hours, I mean, it's very bare bones, but it kind of works, which is kind of cool. So one thing that I want to try now is we have the volume, the UI volume at 50%. What happens now if I say, hey, the audio volume is 10%? It works. Oh, I love it when this works. So again, you can somewhere have in your game where you change here the audio value through a slider, and so everything that is tagged as UI audio gets a new volume. That's neat. So you're doing collision events. Oh god, not oh dear. Yeah, collisions, that's a completely different thing. The other thing, of course, that I haven't touched is doing any sort of a game rendering right now, like doing a UI system or so, which I'm not going to get into. But that's the other thing that I've mentioned, is that GameMaker now can do UIs, but not as, yeah, it has a canvas system, so to speak, but none of the other associated functions like buttons or checkboxes or sliders. The good thing is at least it can do labels now, because you just pass it a font object, and then you can render text in that font on that line, for example. So at least this works with GameMaker. But again, they're still some ways off. Okay, I think that's it for me today with my throat. But yeah, again, let's have a look at it. What is happening? So it has here every second, it has here this fake event that a sound effect was played, and when I hit up or down on the keyboard, it says here that it was either a previous item selected or a next item selected, and plays the according audio file. And when I hit escape, it means cancel out of it, and the game should handle what canceling means. In our case, when the input was received of input cancel, it says handle endgame request, which right now it doesn't do any checks of the current state of the game. It just says, hey, handle endgame request, and the endgame request also doesn't look at have you saved your game or anything. It just ends the game for now, which is good for prototyping. But yeah, I think all I need to do is get a handle on this messaging system, and wrap my head around of how I can utilize doing everything through messages, and then of course dispatch messages instantly, and not just have them wait for the next frame, which is a project for future Phil then. Righty right. Again, thank you everyone for being here, for entertaining me with your presence, and for following along, and for helping me figure this thing out. I'm pretty happy with the amount of work that I got done. I was a bit worried to get back into GameMaker today, and yeah, how easy that would be, or how hard it would be. But so far, I think I've managed. Right, so what's going to happen next week or this week? So on Thursday this week, I'm again guest at the FM4 Spielekammer. Another road trip to Vienna for me, and I'm planning to do a little reel. So it's this short 1 minute vlog kind of video. So with whatever happens, happens. I don't know yet. And on the weekend, there won't be a stream because of family obligations, and yeah, my timing's messed up. I cannot do this. But the idea is the week thereafter to do a stream under some time under the week. So a weekday stream. Also, I'm not sure at what time it will be. It will be rather short notice. It's just, you're probably not going to miss anything. It's just something that I catch up in my streaming. Console says Spielekammer. Yes, indeed. And Kersey has been lurking. Thank you so much for lurking, Kersey, and always thank you so much for catching my errors. Apparently, I didn't make too many today, so you had a chill Sunday evening. Right, what else? Oh yes, one thing, you know what, since you're all here, I can give you a sneak peek on the current new homepage, Pixel Prophecy homepage that I've been working on. So as some of you remember, this is the current Pixel Prophecy homepage. So again, it has some of my games there, and it's kind of neat and nice and works. But it says here that I'm a game developer, and as you know me, I'm a little bit more than just game developers. And if you arrive on Pixel Prophecy, you still don't get the full picture. That's the hard word. The full picture of who I am. So I'm working on a new version of it, and this is the current in progress version that is a little bit more streamlined, where it just says, hi, that's me. This is what I do. We have here a couple of featured projects in case you just want to start with something. That was the wrong button. And then this is just standing. This is not how it will look in the end, but so just that I have everything. So all the videos that I do, the streamings, the YouTube videos are there. All the games, at the beginning of the stream, I tried like 3 different sites where you could play my games. And so this again is just a place where everything should be easily accessible. And also if the goddess forbid anything happen, like I get a copyright strike on YouTube and suddenly my YouTube channel is blocked or something. If you come to this website, there should be all the information that you need in case something happens. You never know. So again, this is the idea of it, and yeah, it's my CSS pet project right now. And the neat thing is it should even work on mobile and look somewhat pleasing. So again, yeah, this is the current state of things. This has no priority. It was just nice to tinker a little bit with CSS and PHP. So yeah, at some point I might ask you to have a look at it and please give me feedback on it. Right. Okay. With that being said, again, my voice is failing, but I'm, as always, I'm thankful to all of you who join my weird little variety streams. You never know what happens. I don't know what happens. And things get done. And again, I'm very grateful that you follow along and join me in my weird creative endeavors. Right, so next stream will be in German on Thursday at 5 p.m., which is 4 hours earlier than usual. I will post it on the socials, but again, it's going to be in German and we're playing Minecraft. And Robert from the Spielekammer has introduced me already as the Minecraft professional par excellence. And I said, oh, Robert, please don't call me a pro. I played a lot of Minecraft, but I haven't seen the Ender Dragon. Anyway, and the week thereafter, no weekend stream, but sometimes under the week, during the week. Cool. Sure thing, says Commander Stitch. Again, thank you, Commander, for dropping by in your vacation. It has been a pleasure to be able to stream for you, and have a wonderful week, and maybe I see you soon or a little bit later. In any case, have a wonderful week. Bye-bye.